What's up, everybody? It's Pikel. Welcome back to the best YouTube channel in the world, League of Items. I've got some good news and I've got some bad news. Good news, it's Monday. Bad news, we've got some ESPN Esports global power rankings that we kind of have to go through. I'm planning on making another video about this tomorrow with Billy. But I gotta go through it first on my own. A Secret Day Trader is immensely entertained right now. Also streaming this live on Twitch. If you want to watch me make the videos, then follow me on Twitch. And then you'll get a notification when I go live and do impromptu things such as this. Maybe play a little FIFA. I don't know. Maybe play some League of Legends. Who knows? The possibilities are endless. I could be streaming literally anything. Well, not everything, but a lot of things. So let's minimize this to the correct size. And we're going to put that over there. And then we're going to do this. Alright. So, let's just get right into it. First up, the 47th ranked team in the world currently is FC Schalke. So Schalke drops 2 spots. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to go into every single league, look at the results for the teams from the past week, and try to make sense of the rankings as they happen, as we learn about them. Because all we're asking for is some consistency. All we're asking for is some consistency. So let's take a look at the scoreboards. Oh, wait a second. The scoreboards didn't change because they didn't play last week. So we're just going to leave them at 47. I'm not going to question it. So that means they must have seen some good things from other teams. Next up, Rogue Warriors. The Rogue Warriors. China's very own Rogue Warriors. A very fun team to watch. A team that Billy and I are both relatively high on compared to the power rankings and the statistics. So Billy's ranking, the EGOAT, has Rogue Warriors ranked higher than most other places because of some of their gold statistics, which are pretty good. So this week they lost to Vichy Gaming and beat Dominus. That milk tastes salty. That's weird. So Rogue Warriors against Vichy Gaming. I think that they did have a realistic chance to win that match. They are the more volatile team than Vichy Gaming, so they had high DraftKings upside, but they lost that match 2-1. Against Dominus, they won 2-1. And Haro played out of his mind. If you were just ranking players, I think that you would have to put Haro as... He would probably be a top 5 jungler in North America. He is more similar to Blabber than someone like Xmithy. So he's in the same vein as Blabber. He has this hyper-aggressive playstyle. Doesn't play a lot of the same champions as Blabber. Like, he's more known for his Elise and Nidalee and stuff like that. Blabber's more known for, like, Trundle, Olaf, stuff like that. Not saying that Blabber can't play other champions. It's just those seem to be the main champions that are in his arsenal right now. Probably has something to do with the patch. But I am somewhat surprised that we haven't seen more from Blabber in terms of champion diversity. But, you know, I guess it kind of speaks to Cloud9's focus on winning games. Gotta respect that. So, Rogue Warriors, they get their first win of the season, but they still drop 2 spots. Kind of peculiar. Should I keep a track of that? I guess I should. League was on break. They went 1-. Alright. The Excel wants to be a funny guy again. Or girl, or person. It just wants to be funny. That's really the only thing that I was trying to get at there. Just trying to be funny. I know everyone says, like, just put an apostrophe in front of it. It's like, are you out of your mind? You want me to put an apostrophe in front of every single thing like that? I'll just change the cell type. Come on. Come on. It is very frustrating, though. I'm obviously very frustrated. Sol Heywan Prince. Sol Heywan Prince. A very fun name to say. You have to give them that much. They have a fun name to say. Sol Heywan Prince. They lost all 4 of their games in decisive fashion. Losing to T1 2-0. And losing to a Freak of Freaks 2-0. This is the kind of thing that I personally don't put much weight in. I'm more of a talent-focused evaluator. So them losing, Sol Heywan Prince losing to two of the better teams in the LCK doesn't bother me at all. If they left the rating the same, I think that's fine. If they even moved them up because other teams looked worse, I think I would have been fine with that. So I don't really have much to say about Sol Heywan Prince. I don't think that you can really make much of an argument based on the results that they are the... It's difficult to make an argument for them being above anyone besides Hanwha Life. Next up, we have XL. So XL is going from 40th to 44th. That's kind of surprising, since the league was off. Okay. That is kind of strange, actually. 0 and 2. So we're just going to skip them. Immortals. This is somewhat surprising. I thought that Immortals would be much higher based off of what happened this weekend, right? Immortals lost to Dignitas but beat TSM. Beating TSM is good, but Immortals is still not a very good team. So I respect them, actually, for this. I think having them this low is probably accurate. Beat TSM, but still very bad talent-wise. Going 1-1, I guess you could, like, if you're ESPN, you could just chalk it up to variance and say, like, they're destined to win some of these games, but they're still just not very good. So I actually agree with them on that. That's concerning. 42. We have Dignitas. So Dignitas has moved up 5 spots in the rankings this week. Dignitas went 2-0. Dignitas beat Immortals, which was a little bit surprising, but talent-wise, they've made some changes. Lorlo and Dardoch on the team is definitely a benefit, or an improvement, I should say. Lorlo and Viper played with one another way back, years and years ago. When they both broke into the pro scene, they kind of did it at the same time. I believe when Team Liquid was trying out a new roster. I think it was Team Liquid, I forget. But now they are the 42nd ranked team with the 5 spots. They had a 2-0 week. In terms of talent, I don't think this did much to change me about the talent of the individual players. I've been very high on Dardoch the entirety of his professional career. Lorlo, Dardoch, who did they play? I'm guessing they played Phoenix, Johnson, and Afromoo. Let's just make sure we have, Phoenix, Johnson, Afromoo. So good for them. It's tough. It's tough losing every single match in a split. Not fun. Not fun to be a part of, I'm sure. I don't know why that is so salty. Very concerning. Maybe I'm drinking expired milk. Who knows? Snack break. This is a cannoli chip from Wegmans, I believe. Wegmans? No, Stu Leonard's. Top notch. Highly recommend. Very delicious. I have one more left, so we'll do that about halfway through when I need a little bit more energy. I also have some water. We've got all the bases covered tonight. I'm not going to die of dehydration. I'm not going to die from malnutrition. All right, so Dignitas off of their 2-0 week gets a little bit of a bump. Hanwha Life. Hanwha Life has stayed the same at the 41 mark. I don't think that it's a very bad ranking because, again, Hanwha Life, they have some very, very talented players. Their game score is 2-16. I wonder if that was improved this week. I know they lost... Oh, wait, no. I do know if it improved this week. It did not. They lost all 4 of their games. They lost to Sandbox, which is one of the spots that I was hoping they'd be able to pick up a victory. And then they lost to Gen G, which is what we expect. Next up, we have OMG. So OMG is going from 30th to 40th. This is the kind of thing that we can typically avoid by evaluating on talent, as opposed to results and things of that nature. Because it just makes you look like a crazy person. So OMG lost to Billy Gaming. I think that was a little bit of an upset, and that could diminish your opinion of OMG if you just look at the result. But I think if you take a look at the match itself, they actually played decently, or at least they played as well as you should expect OMG to play. Billy Gaming just, you know, kept the matches very competitive. They were relatively bloody. So overall, disappointing, yes, but I think it's par for the course for OMG. And then OMG against LGD. I think that OMG is supposed to lose to LGD. So I don't really understand why you're dropping them 10 spots. I know that their criteria is like what's their likelihood of making like the world's quarterfinals or something insane like that. Like, I'm not sure why you would do a power ranking like that. But OMG, talent-wise, compared to LGD, is not as good. So I'm not surprised that they lost. If anything, it's a benefit that they lost 2-1. Next up, LNG. LNG going from 28th all the way to 39th. So that is another spot where their rankings seem to have like this weird lag where they're not like reacting in real time to the matches that are happening. Because they lost 2-0 to V5, which is reasonable. V5 is pretty good, and they lost 2-0 to BLG. So the BLG loss, that was the first match back for Meteor, I think, and he played well there. Actually, this might have been his second or third match back, but again, he still played well. So LNG, I guess you could kind of downgrade them a little bit for that, but now with hindsight, you kind of understand Meteor was coming back, playing well, so it just makes it seem more reasonable to lose to LNG. LNG also lost to Top Esports. You have to expect that. And they lost to V5. Kind of have to expect that. So they went 0-3 in matches. That's fine. I was surprised they left them up as high as they did, because they've been on a losing streak for quite some time now. So like they won a couple of matches, and then they stayed the same, and then they lost a match or two, and then they went up in the power rankings like a lot, and then they lost some more matches, and now they're going down. So it makes sense, kind of. Just a strange amount of movement for them. 38, we have E-Star. E-Star, roughly the same position, which is reasonable. E-Star has lost 6 matches in a row, at least. So E-Star going into that, they've gone from 28th to 30th to 36th to 38th. So that's pretty reasonable. E-Star has taken at least one game in most of their matches, which is pretty good. But yeah, not a lot to love on E-Star. I love saying girls just want to have fun in the Esports Center videos, but you know, they don't win enough for me to be able to say that in a positive way. It's always just making fun of them, which is also fine. That's also fine. Next up, we have Dominus. So another Chinese team. Dominus at 38. Dominus is another team who have been losing quite often. Maginus 9. Welcome. Very confusing name. Maybe it's Maginus, like Maginus? I don't know. You gotta let me know. I don't know how to say that. Instead of having a confusing name, how about a regular name like Rick? 37. 37 for Dominus. 37 for Dominus. They beat EDG. They kind of reacted slowly to that. They took a game off of Invictus Gaming. That's a positive. They took a game off of World Elite. That's a positive. Took a game off of Rogue Warriors. That was not a big deal. But Dominus does look pretty competitive in a lot of their losses. So I would say, like, compared to other teams around the world, I would probably have them ranked differently than how ESPN has them ranked. Probably a little bit higher, but we'll do the second part of my Harris ranking for that. That's Dominus. 36th, Billy Gaming. Billy Gaming. A lot of Chinese teams down here. So Billy Gaming, Billy Gaming dropping 2 spots. Lost to Top Esports. You can't really do anything about that. They lost to LNG. Or they beat LNG, sorry, 2-0. That's pretty good. At least it's what you should expect from them. Invictus Gaming against Billy Gaming. Taking 1 game off of Invictus Gaming is a positive result. Taking 2 games against OMG is a very good result in my opinion. So with Meteor back, they are much more competitive. They are much more interesting to watch. They have interesting champion pools. Today against Sunning, they actually had a chance of beating Sunning. I'm very high on Sunning. So the fact that BLG was able to take a game off of them and almost take 2 games off of them, that makes me respect Billy Gaming. Next up, the flyest of quests, FlyQuest. Wow, how far the mighty have fallen. FlyQuest drops 18 spots. So this is the only kind of move that can happen in a ranking system that is based off of something as wild as what are their chances of making it to Worlds quarterfinals or out of the group stage or into semis or can they win Worlds? Seems like a stupid way to have a ranking. I just had to throw out a bottle cap. It was getting on my nerves. FlyQuest. So let's see what FlyQuest has. Oh, I made a mistake. I exited out of that tab. Please forgive me. I apologize. Please forgive me. Don't think less of me. I implore you. Do not think less of me. FlyQuest lost to 100 Thieves. Bad loss. 100 Thieves, and they lost to Dignitas. 2 bad losses. Oh, well, they can't lose to themselves. And Dignitas. So they've been losing a lot of matches recently. They beat Evil Geniuses when they had like Mash as their AD carry, which was pretty surprising. They lose to Team Liquid, which is reasonable. They lose to 100 Thieves. That looks pretty bad. They lose to Dignitas. That looks really bad. So they're 1-3 in their last 4 matches. That is really concerning. I think from a talent perspective, they're still pretty good, but they have big issues with the bot lane. It will be interesting to see what FlyQuest does with their roster because they have Solo, who is not a young player, right? I'm pretty sure. Santorin, Power of Evil, and Ignar. All 4 of these players are about winning right now. I don't think Mash is a good fit long term. I don't think that Wild Turtle is a good fit long term. Both of these players are just obviously the worst players on the team. So they'll need to come up with some kind of solution, whether that means getting a new AD carry, signing somebody from a different position to play AD carry. Not really sure what their long-term solutions are going to be there, but that is very concerning. They've just looked very bad in the bot lane. Vitality drops 1 spot. They played no games. League was on break, so we're going to leave that the same. Evil Geniuses. So Evil Geniuses, this one hurts me personally. I'm a relatively big Evil Geniuses fan. I love their playstyle. They've had some gigantic drafting issues. They are also 1-3 in their last 4 matches. They lost to FlyQuest, beat Immortals, lost to Golden Guardians, lost to CLG. So Evil Geniuses, even though they were able to help me win a $1,500 seat for the event in October yesterday, they lost that match. So I think talent-wise, they're still one of the 4 best teams in North America. They're just going through a rough patch right now. Not saying that they're rough on this patch. I'm just saying it's a rough patch. The turn of phrase. It's quite common. Turn of phrase. I think that's correct. But so yeah, EG, still a talented group of players. I really think that they are kind of in a holding pattern, waiting for Huni to become a naturalized U.S. To have his residency switched over to the U.S., which takes a certain number of years of playing in the LCS. So I think he's about to hit that threshold for next season. So next season, when we go into it, and it's Huni, Svenskeren, Jizuke, Bang, and Zazel, I think that's a very competitive roster. They will have high expectations. I don't think that Kumo is the issue, really. I don't think that you can blame Kumo for all of the struggles they've been having. They're going through a little bit of a downturn right now. I still think long-term, they're one of the 4 best teams in North America. Next up, Counterlogic Gaming. So this is where I would have an issue. I think that it makes sense that CLG should be ranked higher than the team that they just beat, but at the same time, they're not as good as Evil Geniuses. I think it's pretty obvious that they're not. If you're changing your opinion on them because of one game they played against each other, that seems like a kind of insane way to do it. I know that we're limited to the results that we see on stage, but I mean, come on. You can't look at those 2 teams and think that CLG is better than Evil Geniuses. Next up, Sandbox Gaming. So we're finally getting some love for Korean teams. Sandbox skyrocketing up the board, improving 12 positions. The Fighting Yamato Cannons is what I like to call them personally. So Sandbox beat Hanwha Life 2-0, and they beat KT Rolster 2-0. Beating Hanwha Life, not outlandish, but you also shouldn't give them much credit for that. Beating KT Rolster after KT Rolster beat DRX, now we're talking. They had a good match against KT Rolster. I think a lot of the blame should be given to KT Rolster for how they played in that match, though. Not making themselves look very good. They do have some question marks about their roster. I'm not sure how much longer the SMEB experiment in support is going to last, but I still think that it's fine. I still think that it is a good idea long term, at least for this season. To have SMEB included in the starting roster as the support. It'll be interesting to see how limited his champion pool is, though. It shouldn't be limited, but we'll see. Next up, KT Rolster. So another team moving up 12 spots. They left them in this order after Sandbox beat KT. So it's interesting how they put CLG above Evil Geniuses, but then they have KT above Sandbox. So KT Rolster, I think that their win over DRX deserves to have them ranked higher. Losing to Sandbox is not great, but I think that the DRX victory is more important, especially to show what their upside looks like. So KT is going all the way up to 30. Golden Guardians is at 29, so they are also improving a decent amount this week. Golden Guardians beat Evil Geniuses, and I think they kept it relatively close against Team Liquid. So you got to respect that. The beating Evil Geniuses is relatively important for me. I do think that is a big benefit. Next up, 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves, they're on a 3-game winning streak. Now they have contracts in the jungle. They beat Cloud9, so that was kind of incredible, their ability to beat Cloud9. And this is the kind of match that if things do turn around for 100 Thieves, they will point to this match as the reason, as like the coming out party for 100 Thieves. Bro, save some time, copy paste the whole sheet, and do an index match. How about no? How about you stop telling me how to live my life? This is a part of the shtick, is going back and forth. I don't need your technology to save my life. This is America. Yeah, so 100 Thieves. Having contracts come back into the roster is a pretty big improvement over Meteos. I was never a fan. I haven't been a fan of Meteos for a long time in terms of his playstyle and his ability to impact LCS matches. I think when Meteos' teams win, it's because like the macro game was played correctly. Not saying that it was played very well, just it was played correctly. Contracts, on the other hand, he came in and beat Cloud9 with a very aggressive jungle win. So he carried the game. This was like a Haro situation. And this is one of the reasons why Contracts has been one of the most highly touted North American prospects. He was like 16 or something on Ember before Ember disbanded. He played for Cloud9 at one point. He was supposed to be the long-term solution for jungle, but then he kind of had a few bad splits, and they decided to go in a different direction. But Contracts has always been thought of as a talented player in North America, or for North America. So I do think that moving them up makes a lot of sense. So 3-0 in their last 3 games. Pretty good. Pretty good. Next up is Origin. So Origin, again, they've looked like they didn't play anything recently, but in their last couple of matches, they looked very shaky. I think Nuke Duck is probably the worst player on their team. They just made a change. Now they have Jack Troll as their support. And from everything I've heard, Jack Troll is a horrible person, and actually a horrible person, a very toxic person in real life and in the game. I'm always anti giving those people more opportunities. If all of that is false, then unlucky, but I'm limited to the amount of information that I have. Jack Troll is not the kind of talent that you would really expect a team to be signing onto a contract at this point. But that's what they decided to do. They made a risk, I guess, in bringing over Destiny from the OCE, and I guess it hasn't panned out. Not sure. I don't think I really agreed with that decision in the first place, but to cut ties on it at this point seems like a mistake. So we'll see how that ends up turning out. EDG, ranked 26th now. Let's take a look at some of their recent performances. EDG lost to RNG. RNG is a good team. They lost to JDG. JDG is a good team. They beat Rogue Warriors 2-0, which they're supposed to. They lost to Dominus when they didn't have their starting AD carry, and they lost to Top Esports. I think when EDG is firing on all cylinders and has their complete roster, I think that they are going to be a competitive team for the rest of the season. I think they have a lot of good matchups against teams that are around the same level as them. So I think that long term, I think they're going to be fine. They started out this new top laner the other day. I'm not sure if he's new or not. I couldn't really follow what was going on with Xiaoshang. Larry Ball never lost. Is asking why RNG was ranked 4th at one point. That's a good question. At that point in the season, I was pretty high on RNG, but I was not. I didn't have them ranked at 4th, but I did have them, I think, close to top 10. So we were on EDG. EDG, talented roster. I think that they will be fine for the rest of the split. They're gonna have some good wins and some bad losses, and that's all we can really go off of. SK Gaming, 25th. If SK Gaming played against EDG, EDG would mop the floor with them. Another couple of LEC teams that the league was on break. It's really tough to evaluate them at this point. Team Solomid. So TSM has dropped a spot. Let's take a look at their weekend. They lost to Cloud9, which is reasonable. They lost to Immortals. Immortals has looked much better recently, but it's still a bad loss. Going 0-2, I think it's fine leaving them at about this point. I would probably rank them lower. I think they're another team that if they played against EDG, they would get swept. Well, not swept necessarily, but they would help EDG mop the floor by using their face to mop the floor. That's kind of where I'm at on that one. Team Dynamics. Not fun to watch T1 lose to Team Dynamics. That was a pretty horrible loss by T1. Dynamics lost to Gen.G 2-0, and then they managed to beat T1 because T1 played like garbage. If you want to see my breakdown of Game 3, that's on my YouTube channel. Basically, T1 made a few pretty terrible macro decisions, and probably a drafting mistake as well, and it kind of put them into a spot where they were unable to contest the Dragon 4 Soul point. They were unable to contest Dragon Soul, basically. They let 1 or 2 Barons slip through their fingers. I think they gave up 3 Barons in that game altogether. Just a horrible game from T1. Tough. It's honestly pretty tough to give Dynamics too much credit for that. But, you know, there had to be a team playing against them when they kind of self-destructed. So, congratulations to Team Dynamics for that one. Vichy Gaming. Vichy Gaming is moving in the right direction ever since they started playing Zika. So they beat LNG 2-1. They beat E-Star 2-1. They beat Rogue Warriors 2-1. And then, wouldn't you know it, they beat Fun plus Phoenix 2-1. They're a good team. They have a good coach. I've been pretty high on them for a lot of the season. I'm pretty fortunate that they didn't have Zika when I was picking them earlier on, again when like Sunning played them and stuff like that, because who knows what their season would look like if Zika was playing the entire time. So right now, Vichy Gaming is ranked 8th in the league, from the record perspective. Next up, we have LGD. If LGD played a lot of these European teams, they'd be getting some free victories. LGD. So LGD lost. They beat Invictus Gaming 2-1. Great victory. They lose to Sunning 0-2. In my opinion, that's a relatively close match. I'm not surprised that Sunning won. I do like Sunning a lot, but I wouldn't penalize LGD so much for losing to them. They lost 2-1 to JDG, which is fine. They beat OMG 2-1, which is obviously a good thing. And they're playing tonight against Rogue Warriors. So, you know, I fully expect them to be able to handle Rogue Warriors, but it's an interesting matchup because Rogue Warriors has a similar playstyle. They have a jungler who is kind of depended on to create advantages in the early game. But he's going up against Peanut. Peanut's a very good jungler. Yeah. So LGD at 20. Oh, not the worst. Not the worst. Let's just keep it moving. Next up, Misfits at 19. They're another team that was on break. Tough to kind of move them around. They lost to G2, which is fine. They beat Mad Lions, which is a good thing for them. I think Misfits is a good macro team. I think they are kind of separating themselves from Origin. I do like Misfits a considerable amount. They're the kind of team who would actually be able to compete with some of these teams from other regions because of the type of playstyle that they have. I just think they have a good read on the game. I'd probably not pick them against a lot of these other teams, but I do think they're relatively good. Next up, we have Afrika Freaks. The Afrika Freaks have dropped 2 spots. They lost to Damwon Gaming 2-0 and beat Afrika Freaks 2-0. So, I mean, if the rankings, if they feel better about other teams to justify moving them up as opposed to moving Afrika Freaks down, I think that's fine. They took care of business against Seoul Haewon Prince, right? But they lost to Damwon Gaming. Damwon Gaming is a good team. Tough to criticize them for that. Next up, we have Team Liquid. If Team Liquid played against Afrika Freaks, I would bet hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on Afrika Freaks, depending on what the money line was. Team Liquid beat CLG, beat GG. That should do nothing to change your opinion of Team Liquid. Those are 2 games that they're supposed to win. Sunning moved from 19th to 16th, so rising 3 spots. They beat Billy Gaming. They've beaten E-Star. They've beaten LGD. They've beaten Dominus. They've been putting together a very good season ever since I started touting them before the season started. Some people would call that the Pikel bump. I'm not sure who on Sunning is watching my videos, but they're obviously emboldened and want to prove me right. So you're welcome to Sunning. If you end up winning something and making money off of it, feel free to send me a check. I obviously deserve it. Obviously. Very clearly, I deserve that. Next up, RNG. So RNG has been tinkering with their roster. And it is looking like it's paying off. So they beat EDG 2-0 yesterday. They played Xiaohu, and they also played Gala together. It was very interesting when they were talking about it on the live broadcast, because their theory is that Betty is too passive to play on RNG, because they really need someone more like Uzi to fill into the role that Uzi left. I think that it's a flawed way of thinking, but if everyone on the team believes that and plays that way, and if all of the players agree that they need kind of a more aggressive AD carry, then you can't really knock the decision. I don't think there is a gigantic difference between Gala and Betty. Obviously, they've looked better with Gala playing recently, but Betty has had some great performances as well. It's just, I think that's kind of results-oriented, the way that they're talking about it. 14th, T1. So T1, like I said, pretty horrible loss to Team Dynamics. They beat Seoul Haewon Prince 2-0, then they lose to Dynamics. Right now, T1 is ranked 4th in the LCK. I understand how someone can watch their match against Dynamics and say to themselves, oh, T1 lost to Dynamics, they're horrible. But if you really think about that game, that third game, the fact that it was as close as it was after they gave up Infernal Soul because Teddy and Faker were playing Lulu and Aphelios at a very high level, you have to almost give them credit for losing in that fashion, because they kept it remarkably close, miraculously even. Gen G is in 13th, so they're still pretty low on Korea as a whole. Gen G did everything they could to not be ranked lower. They're the 3rd best team. They're tied for 2nd right now in Korea. I think there are good arguments to be made within the top 4 for which team is actually the best. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that. Team World Elite going from 14th to 12th. They are a good team. I love their play style. I like their roster. I think that Teacher Ma, maybe he's good enough, maybe he's not good enough long term, but for right now, on this patch with these players, I think that Teacher Ma deserves to be playing in the LPL. They've beat Dominus. They lost 2-1 to JDG. They beat RNG 2-1. So they have some good victories under their belt. Nothing extremely good though. So they beat EDG, beat Invictus Gaming. I remember the Invictus Gaming win. Beating RNG is good. Beating Vichy Gaming looks better and better because of Zika coming back, but they were fortunate enough to play Vichy Gaming before Zika was on the team. That would have been much more difficult. G2 has not played. So Larry Ball says, hard to rank Korea any higher until more international matches after the spanking they took in Mid-Season Cup. I think most of their matches were pretty close in the Mid-Season Cup. But yeah, having China win it obviously doesn't make them look better. Alright, so now we're in the top 10. So typically what we do here is read the blurbs, freak out a little bit about the grammar and how poorly worded they are, and then we just look at the ranking. So first up, we have the 10th best team in the world, JDG. So before we get into the comment, let's see what they've done recently. JDG has beaten Dominus, Rogue Warriors, World Elite, Invictus Gaming, EDG, and LGD consecutively. They have a loss to RNG. They have a loss against Top Esports, but overall they're 7-2, and they are currently ranked 3rd in the standings. So my problem with the rankings is that they had them at 5th at one point, and then 9th and 10th and 10th. So they are staying somewhat consistent. I'm just not sure if we can really leave them at the bottom half of the top 10 when they've already shown they have the capability of winning a split. But let's just see what they have to say. Ooh, I don't like how this starts. It has been an awkward post-title season for the Devils of JD Gaming. Though the team is still firmly in the conversation of making the World Championship and being a contender of winning it all if they do so, they've seen little fanfare following their triumph in the spring. Everything has either been about Top Esports crushing the competition or V5's ascent from winless embarrassment to legitimate contenders, leaving JD to quietly take care of business, standing at 7-2, and a game behind Top Esports for the top spot in the standings. The world can chatter about Knight or PP God all they like until someone eliminates JD from the upcoming summer playoffs. The Chinese championship goes through the Devils. The first sentence, it has been an awkward post-title season for the Devils of JD Gaming. I'm not sure about that. Not a great sentence, but, we're not going to be too critical. Just kidding, we are going to be too critical. Though the team is still firmly in the conversation of making the World Championship and being a contender of winning it all if they do so, they've seen little fanfare following their triumph in the spring. Horrible sentence. Not sure why you would word it that way. Some weird passive word choices and sentence structures. Somewhat of a run-on sentence. Everything has either been about Top Esports crushing the competition or V5's ascent, blah, blah, blah. A lot of just, heavy-winded? Long-winded? Long-winded. That's the phrase. Not a fan. Do better. Do better, ESPN. Do better. Next up, Invictus Gaming. Invictus Gaming was 4th, now they're 9th. Let's take a look at what they've done recently. Invictus Gaming beat eStar 2-1, beat Billy Gaming 2-1, lost to JDG 2-0, beat Dominus, beat FPX, lost to LGD. So since the last time that this ranking has been out, they lost to JDG, but they've beaten everybody else since that has happened. So they must think that dropping games to Billy Gaming and eStar is a big negative for Invictus Gaming. I think that it should be expected by now that Invictus Gaming is going to win games they shouldn't win and lose games they shouldn't lose. That's just who Invictus Gaming is. Let's see what Ersberger has to say about Invictus Gaming. It has been a bumpy, parentheses, but successful summer split thus far for the 2018 World Champions. After Rookie looked unlike himself in the spring, he's turned it around this split to look more like the world-class talisman he is, putting Invictus Gaming on his back in numerous matches this split to get them over the line. It also could be a redemption season for another former world champion of the 2018 roster, Baolan. It's Baolan, right? They spelled that name wrong? Who lost his starting job to Southwind, but has recently found himself back in the starting 5, 3-1 overall for the split. I think that's the wrong name. Let's check. Good thing we have the internet. Baolan. Ooh, so close. So close. It's actually Baolan, not Baolin. That's an easy mistake to avoid if you first of all actually know the players that you're talking about, and second, have an editor. But obviously ESPN Esports doesn't believe in having an editor, now do they? It has been a bumpy, parentheses, but successful. I don't understand why they write the way that they write. That's all I got to say about that. Pretty poor performance from Ersberger. We should do an ESPN Esports ranking of the writers. It would not be nice. It would not be nice, I'll tell you that much. So Invictus Gaming 9th overall. FPX 8. So FPX, what could cause the FPX fall in the rankings? I think it might have something to do with losing to Top Esports and losing to Vichy Gaming. So they have lost their 2 most recent matches. Let's see what they have to say. Do Fun Plus Phoenix still belong here after their loss to Vichy Gaming, where they apparently forget the existence of Elder Drake? Question mark? Maybe? Question mark? This is the age of the internet, I guess, because these are questionable from a grammatical perspective. Here's the thing. We all know what FPX are capable of, winning a world championship. Perhaps the more important thing to remember from their world championship run is that it isn't always clean. It wasn't always clean. Remember their day 1 loss to J-Team when everyone was calling them 2015 LGD? Pepperidge Farm remembers, and so do I. Actually kind of funny. FPX is never going to be a clean team, even when they're at their best. Some worrying things from this week are how well the team fares when Duenby isn't able to deal significant amounts of damage on some of the tankier choices that made his playstyle famous. In other words, he's much better in this meta on the Rumble mid or TF than Nautilus. Yes. Despite an 0-2 week, FPX are likely an LPL playoff team and one that could be dangerous if they shore up their mid-jungle synergy and jungle support roams that made the team so formidable in 2019. Okay. Not much to say about that one. Let's move on. 9th, Damwon Gaming. They did the numbers. They whoopsied on the numbers. We have 9, 8, 9. That's not how the numbers progress, my friends. But let's just fix it for them. I'm sure they meant 7, right? So let's just assume they meant 7. LCK. What has Damwon Gaming been up to? Damwon Gaming beat Afrika Freaks 2-0 and lost to DRX 2-1. Despite their 1-2 loss to DragonX, I actually see Damwon and DragonX as pretty much equal in terms of the top 2 LCK teams right now. The issue with Damwon seems to be that when one of their solo laners in either Nogri or Showmaker doesn't perform as well as expected, the entire team sometimes collapses regardless of how well bot laner Ghost plays. More impressive was their absolute slaughter of the Afrika Freaks, where jungler Canyon put on a show. He's had a remarkably strong split thus far, especially when compared to how lackluster he looked this past spring. Both Damwon and DRX are good and interesting teams with the potential to be something greater and stay on top of the LCK come playoff time if they can find that consistency. I think anyone who has been speaking the English language or writing the English language for any amount of time can see how questionable the word choices, sentence structure, and all of this is for a professional writer. It seems like they don't read what they are writing. There is no editor involved at this place. I can tell you that with almost 100% certainty, because any self-respecting editor would not allow this to be published as is. 6. Rogue. Second place Rogue was off last week with the rest of the LEC and will return next week to take on XL and Schalke. This is the best thing that ESPN has ever written. This is the best sentence I've read in all 4 of these power rankings. This is exceptional writing compared to the other blurbs that they've put out there. So congratulations to ESPN. You finally got one right. This one is magnificent. Can't give you enough credit for this one. You finally put it all together for a complete blurb. Let's move on. 5. Cloud9. The dream of a perfect season once more is over. While C9 dispatched of longtime rival Team Solomid to keep their pristine record intact, it was a reformatted 100 Thieves, led by former C9 starting jungler Contracts, that finally upended the reigning North American champion. Although a setback for a team that went 17-1 last split and were aiming for a spotless campaign, the added pressure of being flawless is now gone from C9, allowing them to focus on what's more important, getting ready for the playoffs and a hopeful trip to Shanghai for the League of Legends World Championship. Again, Ersberger, not good, man. Not good. This thing you're doing here with the writing, it's just not correct. It's poor. Some would say bad. Just very not good. Let's go with that one. I'm not going to nitpick every single thing that he says because almost all of it is bad. From a writing perspective. Cloud9 at 5th, whatever, don't really care. I think they deserve to be lower, especially after losing to a team in the LCS. It just shows that they're not... well, that's not fair. They should be lower than 5th, though. They're not the 5th best team in the world. DragonX. Where do I begin with you, DragonX? One week I'm praising DragonX for their intelligent drafting and strong answers to Aphelios that make the most of their solo laners. The next week, I'm heavily criticizing them for picking overly tricky compositions that get run over by KT Rolster and top laner Smeb. This is Semb. I'm not sure who Semb is. I'm sure it must be Smeb though, right? Then they hold off a rising Damwon Gaming in a close 2-1 with more coordinated team fighting and smarter engages. Putting whatever you think about the draft duality of coach CVMax, DragonX is still a team that is in flux. Top laner Doran has been shaky, but jungler Piosik has looked more coordinated with the team overall and is making more of mid laner Chovy's map pressure along with Keria's roaming. Chovy himself has continued to evolve into a more well-rounded mid laner, and DragonX's bot lane can go up against any LCK bot lane. There is a lot to like about DRX, but for them to hold off what are almost guaranteed mid to late split pushes from the likes of Genji and T1, they need to be more consistent. Yeah. Disappointing. Disappointing once again to read these words. I think the rankings overall have actually been better this week from ESPN Esports, but the writing is equally as poor. Semb. Semb? Who is Semb? I don't know who this Semb player is. Yes, and they rebranded. Yes, I know. That is probably not the best thing to continuously put in this. That's why sometimes I say DRX when I remember. But yeah, they keep saying DragonX. It's whatever. I'm not going to rake them over the coals for that one. Dae Wong. But maybe I should. Maybe I should. I rake them over the coals for everything else. Ersberger. Let's see if Ersberger can go 2 for 2 with these LEC spots. The Mad Lions, like the rest of Europe, were off this week. They'll look to add to their 7-2, number 1 overall record in the LEC, playing against G2 Esports and XL Esports this coming weekend. Almost perfect. And by perfect, I mean good, and by almost good, I mean not great. Not as good as the Rogue One. The Rogue One was definitely better. But Mad Lions improved 2 spots by not playing because more red flags have been shown by other teams. I think that they have Mad Lions ranked way too high. But it's whatever. Who's number 2 and who's number 1? If they put V5 number 1, I'm going to shit my pants. Ooh, V5, okay. There's almost always a team in the LoL Pro League that rises through the standings early in the split due to schedule or the fact that opponents simply don't study or ban out their strategies. This past spring, that team was eStar. In 2015, that team was Snake Esports. So when Victory 5 unexpectedly rose to 4-1 after facing middling to lower tier LPL teams, they were fully expected to drop after facing stronger counterparts. They still haven't fallen in the standings, and last night they handed Top Esports, which is still the best team in the world, their first series loss of the summer. With every match, V5 is looking like a more flexible unit, led by jungler Weiwei, and the oppressive trading of bot lane duo Samd and PP God. Their gauntlet of playoff caliber teams continues next week when they face Invictus Gaming and Sunning, but they've already knocked out their most formidable opponent first, proving that they can keep up with anyone in the LPL. That is accurate. There are a few grammatical changes I would make to this, but let's just highlight the last sentence. Their gauntlet of playoff caliber teams continues next week when they face Invictus Gaming and Sunning, but they've already knocked out their most formidable opponent first, proving that they can keep up with anyone in the LPL. So I think the real issue with this sentence is that, like, saying their gauntlet of playoff caliber teams continues next week when they face off against Invictus Gaming and Sunning, I think that's a fine sentence. Then you could kind of finish the paragraph or the blurb with like a declarative sentence like, Victory 5 has finally proven that they can keep up with anyone in the LPL. Like something more in that direction. I think having it as one longer sentence, it's much more difficult to read, which, I mean, is not a huge deal. Like, most people have the reading comprehension of high school at best who are reading this, so can't really fault them too much. But it doesn't mean they can't do better, right? So, yeah, maybe just fix up a couple spots there, but overall I think that was okay. Tyler Ersberger, let's see how he messed this one up. Before the team's stunning loss to Victory 5, it seemed as if Top Esports were on their way to roll through the entire LPL season without dropping a single match. Even with their fall to the unexpected title contenders in V5, Top still stands as the most complete League of Legends team in the world, boasting top 5 players at their position in almost every role. The team's crown jewel, Knight, is putting his Magi's Soul Stealer notebook to good use as the Chinese prodigy gears up to partake in his first world championship. I think one of the issues with Tyler is that he's more focused on throwing strange words into the blurbs that don't need to be there. And then when he's trying to, like, reorganize his thoughts to use one of these strange words, it falls on its face. So Top Esports at number 1, can't argue with that one. Overall, the blurbs, I thought they would be better this week. The blurbs somehow are equally as bad. Very concerning. It still appears that they do not have an editor. They don't know how to number the teams correctly. They had 989, which is not how the number line goes. And they also had some errors in the names of players, which is something that you definitely should not be allowing to happen on a professional publication that certainly has an editor. Because I'm sure they have an editor, right? There's no way they don't have an editor. That would be crazy. That would be like taking crazy pills. So let's go to the ranking. I'll do this tomorrow. I'm going to do this tomorrow with Billy Von Elder. We're going to discuss the ego ranking, and we are going to go through my rankings. Or maybe I'll make my rankings off stream and then show them tomorrow, so I can put a little bit more thought into it. I don't want to do anything haphazard and look foolish like ESPN Esports. Always something you want to avoid, looking like ESPN Esports. So thank you for watching this video. I'd really appreciate it if you took the time to reach out to ESPN Esports and just remind them that they should be doing much better than they are currently doing. It is very unfortunate that one of the best media companies, maybe not best media companies, one of the most influential media companies in the world that has done a great job with traditional sports is allowing their esports coverage to be extremely poor. But hey, what do I know? I can only read and write. That should be at least a requirement for your writers. And apparently it is not. Sad. We can talk about the League of Legends stuff, the differences of opinions we have with the League of Legends writers. But if they can't read or write or analyze the game, I don't know. Pretty rough. But again, thanks for watching. I need to go wash my mouth out with soap after reading what they have written. After speaking the words that they have written. That wouldn't have made any sense otherwise. Otherwise, I'd have to put soap in my eyes, and that would burn. Last time, I promise. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.